Hey gang, like, subscribe, enjoy the talk, because we're going to review the Drednok. Hey, we're back. www.topfunretrotoys3d.com. We're doing action figure review. We got some Drednoks right here. I'm wearing my maybe best Drednok shirt, little Glenn Danzig. I think the Drednoks, they had a band named Cold Slither. And I think that they would have definitely gotten down with some Glenn Danzig. So we've got Ripper right here, and we've got Buzzer, and these are two throwbacks from the original A Real American Heroes Aura line, and I'm super excited to talk about these guys. And these are some cool figures, so stick around. Alright, so first up to bat is my main man Buzzer here, and we'll look at the packaging. And actually there's something very specific about the packaging I want to talk about, which I previously said some things that aren't necessarily true. So the QR code right here, that does not go to the Legend story. That QR code directs you to like Hasbro.com. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the QR codes, they're the same. Like, exactly the same. So these guys don't come with an origin story, which really sucks. Because, you know, keeping the excitement about these figures, about who they are, about keeping that alive, I think is like a huge part of the G.I. Joe line, because otherwise, like, without their story, like without their backstory, like what legend is there, right? So, especially considering, like, again, a huge suspicion that it's grown-ass men in their 40s and 50s, maybe 30s, that are buying these, you know, because they've hit the peak earning potential in their lifetimes. They can sort of like relive their childhood. I don't think a lot of kids, a lot of like children are playing with these. I mean, maybe like 1s and 2s, but like the kids don't care about Drednoks. And there's a lot of Easter eggs here that we'll talk about. And it's really disappointing that Hasbro doesn't include their legends. Like, you have to go hunt around on the internet to find their old Real American Heroes card backs, which talk about who they are. We'll take a look at these together. Right, so same room, but not the same photo, right? So you've got drums in the background. Both of these are different. Maybe we'll still this and then talk about the differences. We see in both pictures the grape sodas are on the ground. We've got the bike in the background, but the bike is in different positions. There is a Cold Slither tour poster. I think the amplifier, yeah, the amps are a little bit different, and the drums are in a slightly different position. There's a green tarp here, so maybe they're in different parts of the room, sort of playing chainsaws together. But yeah, so there's definitely these Easter eggs that only someone who is familiar with the comics or the cartoon would really get. And it's disappointing that Hasbro didn't include you know, the card back, or even incorrectly assumed that it would be on the QR code, because there's these things, you know, these like, here's the stuff they're good at, but there's really no reference that you can easily find. Again, I didn't deep dive this, but explaining what all these different things do wasn't really relevant, or was difficult to find looking online. We'll start off with Buzzer, and we saw him side by side with Ripper. And Buzzer's backstory is interesting because he was like a super leftist Cambridge professor who grew up in Cambridge, England, moved to Australia to study biker gangs, and then became a member of a biker gang himself, and then, you know, sort of the leader of the Drednoks. And as we'll see, Ripper, who's from Tanzania, which is an island south of the island continent of Australia, also a biker gang dude. So these guys have some pretty cool legends. Again, it's a little bit disappointing that these aren't included, and that will kind of die, you know, with, like, say for instance, kids do buy these figures, there's no legend to it. There's like, well, who is this guy with his backstory? Like, you'd have to Google it and then have enough attention span to sift through what you find on Google. Let's get this guy out of the box and check it out. All right, so I really dig just that sinister sneer that he's got in his face there. I wish that had been more relevant, I guess, in the figure's face. Like, I wish he had more of that punk rock biker sneer. Kind of looks. I thought if maybe you had a substitute ahead, that Dee Snider from Twisted Sisters would have worked. But off the bat, I like this figure. It's pretty cool. It's really neat how. Oh, click! That was loud. So very bikerish. The shoulders are well done. It's got the sort of shredded, cut the sleeves off, and that that is the sort of little cup that then allows the arm to rotate. So it works very well with the short sleeves, with the figure. He's got this cool studded belt. He's got maybe it was like a sheriff star and some dog tags. Is that law enforcement and G.I. Joe he's murdered? He's a bad dude, so that could be the case. He's got a pretty neat cobra or snake and stiletto knife tattoo. He's got a holster. He's got a blade. We'll talk about the weapons. He's got a flashbang, a little pineapple grenade. But overall, the sculpt is pretty good. I like it. I am a little disappointed, I guess, with some of the accessories, and maybe this all he carried in the comic book. So he's got a chainsaw, and that's pretty iconic, and we'll see how that fits into his hand. But it's like it's all just blades. Like this dude probably should have had like an AK-47 with a grenade launcher. Maybe a Mac 10 would have been appropriate. Maybe a Tech 9. If you go to www.topfunretrotoys3d.com, you'll see that we have a wide array of foreign weapons and modern weapons for your action figures. So the chainsaw is pretty cool. It was a little bent. Not as bad as we've seen some of the Hasbro or specifically the classified line. I've been misspeaking. I've been blaming all this on Hasbro when I realized that some of their weapons come out pretty okay. But he's got his chainsaw. He holds it well. I guess it's okay. Then he's got like this weird sort of medieval thing, and it's just kind of meh, like not exciting. And then a baseball bat with some saw blades. And again, maybe he carried it in the comic books. It's just not that exciting because it's not like a gun. I like guns, if you couldn't tell. And then his iconic glasses that really, sort of make that face. And speaking of face, they don't sit on it too well. They don't stay on at all very well. I'm sitting here messing with it, and it's kind of disappointing. You would almost want to glue it because it sits, as you can see, like off of his ear. The slightest little oh, there they go. Lost his glasses. So I'll set those glasses aside because certainly those will get lost. Maybe you do want to glue it. I don't know. All right, but so the figure's cool. He's got his heavy work gloves. He's got a fancy watch. The cod piece, like this is almost like Clockwork Orange. The cod piece on the jeans. Oh, but my man's got booty for days. Look at that. Whoa. Shaking that money maker. Aren't you there, Buzzer? So, he's got these interesting thigh pad armor things. This thigh pad And then, you know, his holster and his scabbard. So the knife is sort of a standard, you know, nothing too exciting. Let me move a little closer. Nothing too exciting knife. Dual tone, but like, yeah. The pistol is interesting because this does appear to be sort of a cross between a VP9 and, what was it, the like HK30? I'm probably saying that wrong. But Hasbro is or Hasbro Classified line, they're making what seems like a concerted effort to recreate or at least mimic real pistols. P30, VP9 P30 is what we're looking for. It's got some grip tape on it, but it's not bad. It's a pretty good representation of a pistol. And if you look, you can see it's got what appears to be a spot for the safety decocker and a slide release. It looks like somebody who designed this pistol maybe referenced a photo of a real gun, which is kind of cool. If you weren't excited about Drednoks, if you didn't like the legend of behind the Drednoks, if you weren't into the aura, like, this dude really wouldn't be of much consequence or significance, right? Which is why I think it's important Hasbro, you know, keep that G.I. Joe legend alive, is that people are like, or if kids were to receive this as it's like kind of a biker guy that doesn't have a bike and he comes with some stuff. I think I'm messing this up. So because I had this figure as a child and have good memories of the Drednoks and the cartoon and the figures, I like it, but I don't know if it's going to strike the same enthusiasm for new joiners to the line that don't already know who this guy is. Right? Is this figure enough to spark someone's interest, aside from the story and the Drednok legends, the Cold Slither, rock band they had together? Like, by itself, I don't know if it stands alone, if it really needs the legend, sort of continue and move on. But I mean, I'm happy with how the figure turned out to a degree. Like, it's okay. The glasses really could have just been molded in the face. I mean, that would have been probably a better course of action, because they kind of want to stay on, but like I said, you give it a little they stayed on that time, but the previous time they flew right off. Probably could have just molded the glasses to the face. That probably would have been a better course of action for them, but overall, it's a cool addition to the collection. It is a well sculpted figure, like the dual tone. You've got the skull. You've got all the different pieces. I mean, everything goes together pretty well. I would like to see some more, some different weapons. I don't need like all these different junkyard. The chainsaw was enough. Maybe give the guy like a Mac 10 or something, or an AK. Maybe an AK with a saw blade as a bayonet. But yeah, it's okay. I'm not super excited about it, but I'm not overly disappointed either. All right, next up we got Ripper. And this dude's a little more my speed, my style, right? He's rambunctious. He's got a big knife. He's got razor blade earrings. He's got like a razor blade necklace. And he comes with a gun. Or a better rifle. So we see him here. We already talked about the packaging for these dudes. But he comes with this like weird, claw thing. Fantasy weapon. He's got a super cool trench knife. This appears to be, and it is, because I looked at it, that is a modified XMLR3, which was the original G.I. Joe standard issue rifle. So we're actually going to take a look at those weapons side by side. But I think this dude's super cool. Let's get him out of the box. Alright, here's his insert artwork, and he looks just rambunctious and ready to tear it up. And I love the Pit Vipers. the Pit Viper-esque glasses that he's got, and they don't necessarily want to stay on his face that well, but a little bit better than Buzzer's did. So let's take a look at the figure. Well, those joints are sometimes, it feels like, it's like me when I wake up, like the joints are stiff, everything hurts, I feel like the guys are like cramped and like, oh, the Tin Man. So this dude's pretty cool. I'm not going to bash his tactical setup because he's like a biker and maybe he has military training, but he's from Tanzania and he really likes grape soda and chocolate donuts, if you remember from the comic books and the cartoons. But if you take a look at his face, he's got, you know, the teardrop tattoo. Is that from crying or from murdering someone? Who knows? Cool mullet mohawk. It's like a pelt of pain. And he's got his beard. The face sculpt's really cool. He's got his razor necklace, his razor earrings. He's got this fun sort of chest rig with some pineapple grenades, trench knife, Mandalorian blaster, which we'll talk about. This is fairly authentic when compared to the original Real American Hero figure. Alright, so the trench knife is actually really cool. This is really, really cool. Because that's a trench knife. That's a knife, right? From Crocodile Dundee. That is pretty neat. That is pretty neat. I think that, you know, having a unique... Because, like, you get a knife, like Buzzer had, it's like, oh, that's just like a regular run-of-the-mill knife. But having this, like, trench knife, you can punch somebody, stab somebody, you know, all this neat stuff. Oh, he's got some cool tattoos. Let's look at his tattoos real quick. He's got a Grim Reaper. Assuming some sort of like Tasmanian devil or something. Got his cool spikes here. He's definitely jamming out to Danzig. His chain wallet, so no one steals his all his money. And this blaster, guys, this is modeled from the same weapon that Mando's blaster is modeled after, except this has like a steak knife attached in the end, you know, for like cutting steak or whatever. But that is absolutely modeled after the same pistol. I'll have to put them side by side in a different video, like Mando's blaster versus Ripper's pistol. But okay, he's a biker, he's not military, we're gonna give him a pass. So here is Grunt's XMLR 3 next to the rifle that came with Ripper. So if we look at these things, they are... Oh, lost it. If you look at these are very similar, if not partially the same mold, right? So on top, we've got the XMLR 3 from Grunt, and updated from the original Real American Heroes line. It's got a rail system on the top, but on Ripper, as we see, it's got an optic. It has a magazine well and a magazine which is detachable. But also kind of a weird magazine that it's, you know, shaped the way it is. Normally magazines are, you know, sort of, they don't do that downward. So it could be maybe it's a modified version of the weapon. It has it's got some sort of blade attached to the end, and you know, from the original comic book and cartoon series, he had a weapon that looked very similar, suspiciously similar to the XMLR 3. Was it 3 Alpha? But yeah, so side by side, these are very much the same gun. If you look at some of the nuances on there, most of the weapon is the same with the exception of the magwell, the magazine, the optic, and then the and the blade. But yeah, it's almost the same gun. which is pretty cool that they did something like a throwback to the original, the original Real American Hero line. Now, whatever this is, some sort of grabby thing. It's got little gears, so they'll open up and close together. There are several pieces that go into this thing. So it's got a little hose. The vents are pretty interesting. So there's some cool details in it. It's just like, and I guess because the whole concept of Drednoks is pretty ridiculous. They're like, a biker gang that's like part of Cobra, and but they're not, and they got a band, and they drink grape soda, and they really like chocolate donuts. Let's get this in his hands. So it is about 30 some degrees here in North Carolina. I'm in my attic, and these figures are sort of responding accordingly. Because it's cold, so the plastic is a little less malleable than it would normally be. So just roll with me on that one. Maybe that's why all the Hasbro guns are sort of hanging to the sides. Alright, so whatever this is supposed to be, maybe he's grabbing a box of cereal, off the tall shelf. Who knows? Whatever it's supposed to be, he's gripping on it, and the little thing moves. That's pretty cool. We'll put them side by side and get some final thoughts. Alright, so side by side, I think that Ripper is just a cooler figure. He just came out a little bit better. Now Buzzer, I guess it all comes back to like, how much of a fan of the original line are you? If you're a huge fan, both these figures are awesome. But if I was like a new join to this line, I'd say, well, Ripper is just cooler because he comes with this Marauder's rifle, a pistol, a bunch of like razor blades hanging off of him, a trench knife. But the legend behind Buzzer is cool too, about being a Cambridge professor, growing up in England, and then sort of becoming so the subject of his studies is interesting as well. But I think as far as like the figures go, I'm pretty happy. Not going to get rid of them. What I really want to do is get some bikes for these guys. And I know there's a lot of really cool, or at least like potentially really cool 112, 110 scale motorcycles that can be found for pretty cheap. I recently did a video about a 112 scale snowmobile and did some custom paint on that, and that turned out really well, and it was like $18. So I've got a feeling like there's going to be a lot of upgrade potential for your Drednoks in terms of motorcycles, and the Ninja Turtles van that came out, you could actually turn into like a Cold Slither tour van. So I think my final thoughts would be that Buzzer on his own is kind of meh, but when you pair him up with his crew, like you got to bring the band back together. You got to have everybody together, and I think it's super cool that Hasbro's doing that. So I am happy with them. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Check out www.topfunretrotoys3d.com for all of your 112 scale action figure weapons needs. Thanks, and we'll see you later.